My name is Olivia Francis. I'm a multi-award-winning artist and songwriter living in Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome to What's Your Birthday and What Does It Mean? Sisters Jeri Isaacs and Donna Bernard, co-moderators of the popular Clubhouse Room, explore life's dynamics from their unique point of view based on the day you are born. Sponsored by NashvilleGuitarGuru.com and DearWiseWomen.com. Always fun, never disappoints. It's always in the cards.
Hi, Donna.
Jeri, today's conversation, I'm going to take us back to when we learned in school how our government works. Because I think right now, with all the choppy waters that we're living through, who leads this country, our country, is really important for the next chapter. And we're here on 360 Talk Radio for Women. And, you know, we've all graduated from school a long time ago.
With very little knowledge about how the government works.
Well, we took it in a class and maybe our kids went through it. But, you know, the federal government is composed of three distinct branches: legislative, executive, and judicial, whose powers are vested by the US Constitution in the Congress, the president, and the federal courts, respectively. That's just to set the table, because I feel like there's been so much in the news about the Constitution, the Senate, the Congress, and all of these people that are, making major impact on our lives, right?
Part of the reason is that you just read us from about the federal government. And remember that I think people get mixed up, maybe, because we all live in different states. There are 50 of them, and we live in the United States, but sometimes right now it feels like divided states because there are different rules for wherever you live. Everything is different, and it depends on which state you live in, and it's a little confusing. And I can see how some people might feel that, that their state, they're listening to what their state people are telling them. And why wouldn't they believe them? The federal government is like another level to them. So, I think that maybe understanding the federal government is important for all of us.
And I think that's a good place to start, because we're not going to, we're going to talk about this, but we're going to continue this conversation so it's not overwhelming. But we do encourage everyone to learn about their own state and take a deeper look. Because I know here in Jersey, New Jersey, we live up to that reputation as a pay-to-play state. So it's not a secret.
But Donna, every state has their things about them. And some states just love their senators and will vote for them all the time, despite the fact that they don't have health care or they have very little rights because their state doesn't give them the rights. And yet there are those states like your state, which gives you a lot of rights.
Yes.
Yet you talk about New Jersey like it's a bunch of wise guys, which they are. But I guess they are good at managing what they want to get what you need. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Well, because behind all these wise guys, there are dear wise women like us. This is how we got to the name, right? So they could play their Sopranos games and all that other stuff, but it's the dear wise women that
you have some great women now. You have that Mikey Sherrill.
She is an amazing person. We are going to focus on the Senate, and because I think there's a we're going to start with this dinner conversation, but we're just going to start with the main course because we'll build out as we continue the conversation. But I think it's really important that we look at in Congress, because we hear about Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and Kevin McCarthy. And I think these are four people that are really important for us to just start this conversation.
Okay. I think that we have a unique opportunity to look at them from the cards, because that's what we do. And
yes.
So we're not necessarily casting judgment on anyone, but we're going to see maybe why things go the way they do.
And I think it's important when we hear sound bites, and there's going to be some big elections coming up. Everyone's hearing about the midterms and all the turmoil that's going on right now. And I think at the core of working across the aisle and working together as a United States, it comes down to who that person is. And if we can understand our leaders and how they work together, let's have a new perspective on who's there and who we may vote to be there. And it's very easy when you live in a blue state like I do to say it doesn't matter what happens in a red state, because I'm protected by all these great, like Jeri said, in the blue state. And, a neighbor of mine, he was saying, well, it doesn't matter because where we are, it's okay. And I said, yeah, but, we have the privilege of living in a blue state. And then he said to me, well, I travel around the country because he does supply chain logistics. And he said, every state he's been to, everyone is complaining. He said, and in the states that pay very little taxes, he said, they have no services and they're complaining. So he's gotten he gets a bird's eye view of wherever he goes. So when you pay low taxes, he says, things are falling apart, but they're complaining.
Right.
So everywhere they're complaining.
They're complaining, yet they want to keep things within the state. And they're not willing to talk about getting the state more money, which is what government wants to do, because they want it to be all controlled by the state, but they don't have the money. They don't make a lot of sense, but I wanted to bring up one point. A lot of what we need to talk about, yes, we're talking about who controls the dinner table, so to speak, with the Senate and the House, but none of these people are up for election right now. What really matters is in your state who your senators are, because to get the majority rule is who becomes the Speaker of the House and the leader of the Senate. So if we get more Democrats as senators, and that could be all over the country, whatever Senate races are up, any new Democratic senators can make things more possible for things to get done in the progressive way, or whatever you want to call it. Really, it's really not progressive. It's really more moderate with Chuck Schumer. Or if more Republicans senators get voted in instead of the Democrats, then Mitch McConnell becomes the leader of the Senate. And Kevin, and depending on what happens in the House also. So I guess I'm trying to say is what's important is people need to see who they're voting for in their state, for their senators and their congressmen, because that affects who leads the Senate and the Congress, and that's how we get our laws into our country.
Right. So here's a really good point. Yeah, no, it's a really good point. So like you said, we have the four people at the dinner table, and
we want to keep them there. That's really
right. Well, they're not up for election, so it's still going to be the four people at the dinner table. And it's going to be who's the majority leader, who's the minority leader.
That's the power part. That's exactly
the power play.
Right.
But it's still going to be the same four people.
That's right.
So we're going to just start this with the four people at the table.
Right. Absolutely.
And this way, we start understanding the main course. And it might just be the protein on that plate, because there's going to be a lot of carbohydrates and a lot of vegetables coming. But let's just stay on the protein.
Protein or the pro team? Only kidding.
Jeri, we're going to start with Mitch McConnell. And I just wrote everyone in order, so there's no favoritism here. But Mitch McConnell is a 5 of diamonds, king of clubs, and a jack of diamonds.
That's very interesting. That sort of explains a lot for him. You know, I really, now I get it.
Always in the cards. And,
it is always in the cards.
He's brilliant. We do know he's brilliant.
Yes, he's got that master of knowledge, that king of clubs. We know he's really smart, and but he can overthink things.
He does overthink.
As many king of clubs do. But the 5 of diamonds, his birth card, is interesting because they like to really sort of move around. They are wanderers in their own way, but they're very easily swayed because they're always looking for what's right. You know, the perfect thing, and so they can trick themselves into this is right, but that's right, and they move around. But they can have a lot of success in many areas, but they can also make it really hard on themselves. In a way that I think Mitch McConnell probably does. Like, it's so much important for him to stay in power that he changes things and says things and will change he'll change his mind, and it'll be like he never said it, but you know that he did because it's on camera. I don't even understand sometimes how people can do that, but he can do it without even breaking a sweat.
Without even blinking.
Because he's got that jack of diamonds. And all jacks, you know, the jacks are of those crafty, you know, people.
Persuasive, yeah.
And he's very persuasive, but he can persuade other people, but he can be persuaded himself, and believe it. Like, he can basically tell a story and with a straight face look at you and go, oh, I didn't say that. And that's certainly not what I meant. And you can play it right there on the TV, and it would be it's unbelievable. But
and it's interesting. And now you put him at the table with, next is Kevin McCarthy, minority leader of the US House of Representatives. Ace of diamonds and a double 7 of clubs. So we know he's smart.
Yes, we do, because we know many 7 of clubs and some double 7 of clubs. But we also, first, let's start with the Ace of diamonds.
Yes.
Because that's his birthday card. And we know a lot of Ace of diamonds. And the Ace of diamonds person is going to be searching for love and money. But, it's usually either or. They can't do both at once. They have to make a decision, like where they're going to put their energy. And in his case, since he married his wife, his high school sweetheart, I would say that it was his career and his, working on his career. And that's what it's always been about. And we do know that Kevin McCarthy's greatest desire is to become Speaker of the House. That we know for a fact. So enough said, that's what that Ace of Diamonds is for him. Now, when it comes to that double 7 of clubs, now I have a really strong feeling about, because the 7s are spiritual numbers. So it doesn't matter what your suit is. If you're a 7 or a 9, you have to be dealing on the spiritual level to access the power of these cards. And having a double 7 of clubs, which is a card of spiritual knowledge, that's a very strong, it's really highly spiritual. However, if he has not turned negativity into positivity, basically, it won't be good for him. Now, he might have done that, but it also could be someone sort of fooling themselves, because you have to be very honest and have a lot of integrity. I know that's one of your words, integrity.
Well, and we know a lot of 7 of clubs. So we've known many that have said, oh, yeah, that's how I live my life by.
Well, they have a big challenge, the 7 of clubs, because not only getting over some negativity that they're born with, they have to get over that. They also have to have a very honest and be very have a lot of integrity, because they have a Jack of Spades card, which is that actor card, and it also could be someone who is making up stories and believing themselves.
Them.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, that's his karma card, which is really interesting to me. I never would have thought that, but you know, he's got I don't know him well enough, but other than what I see on TV, I don't read about him really, but lately he's been in the news a lot, and he has to deal through a honest spiritual side of himself in order to really do well for himself.
And it's interesting. So the other two people at the table, we'll start with Chuck Schumer, who's the Senate minority leader. Majority leader. I can't believe I said that, but you know what? It's our show, and that's me. He's a majority leader.
You know what, Donna? He's this close to being the minority leader, so I think it was whatever that is. You know,
I hope I didn't. I'm going to say
a Kanahara.
I hope he's not a Kanahara, because I like Chuck Schumer. 10 of hearts, ace of diamonds, and an ace of diamonds. So isn't that interesting that he too has the ace of diamonds?
Isn't that interesting? It's sort of funny in a way, because now...
But he has that 10 of hearts to start.
10 of hearts to start, which is success with groups of people. So I imagine people really like Chuck. I'm not going to say that people who are right now in power in the Republican area like Chuck, but Chuck must be very well liked as a senator. Because what he does is doing really well with groups of people. You know, he's got that 10. And those are great cards for people who are dealing with a lot of other people. But him too, that ace of diamonds has, the desire for love or money, for power. And I bet you he picked the same thing, wanting to having the power. I'm sure he was very, very hamstringed when Mitch McConnell was, in charge of the Senate. He just got the Senate back from this election, and it's by such a narrow margin that nothing can get past them, because there's really not quite enough Democratic senators, because a few of them don't always vote with the Democrats. They have to vote for their state sometimes.
Well, we'll talk about that. And the thing is, whenever you're, for the four people at the table, they are in the arena of, when you're at this level, at this table, people are only, taking pot shots at you, right? Because you didn't get to that table because you have thin skin, right?
That's
but
right.
This is really interesting. Nancy Pelosi, the woman at the table, the majority speaker of the House, she's a 10 of clubs and a double 3 of hearts. And it's interesting to me on both levels, because only Chuck and Nancy have hearts.
And tens.
It's so interesting when you see who's for the people, or who's more heart-driven, and who is, but everyone has to sit at the table. So Nancy Pelosi, 10 of clubs, double 3 of hearts.
Right. And, they talk about her as being historic. I mean, being the woman Speaker of the House. Remember, she was Speaker of the House when Donald Trump was president.
Oh,
they
yes,
won. They won the Speaker. Remember, and she went she took that gavel. I mean, that was a big hurt to the Republicans. I have to say, I know that. I pray that we Democrats don't feel that way come this election day, because that's what happens oftentimes with the incumbent. The incumbent president. You've got the first time the president, now the 2 years, and now you got the House of Representatives. Everyone's up for a vote again, or however many. And you know what? They often lose so many seats. So it can just as easily happen to the Democrats as it did to Republicans.
Sure.
So I respect how they must have felt. I don't even remember if it was it Paul Ryan or John. I don't remember who it was at the time.
You know what? There was one who was always crying. I think of Paul Boehner.
Paul Boehner. He's the one. John Boehner. He's the one who he like became a on the board of a marijuana thing. That's something with marijuana.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
He was the former Speaker of the US House of Representatives.
But I think that he left before. Wasn't Paul Ryan
Probably.
In the first 2 years? I'm not really sure I remember, but I do know it's a blow to a president when they lose one of the, because they no longer have the presidency, the Senate, and the House.
Right.
He had 2 out of 3. Right now we have all 3, but it's not really doesn't really feel like that, does it? Because of the way how tight the elections were. You know what I mean? How close with the Senate. It's really about the Senate.
Well, I think, listen.
But let's talk about Nancy's cards. Let's talk about her cards. Because she's got that 10 of clubs, which is the mental accomplishment. And I'm so proud of her because she's so smart, and they talk about, the way she handles things. She really is brilliant, and she knows how to handle all the boys.
Well, she does. And they listen, there's nothing that men love to do more is to take pot shots at a successful woman.
That's right. And she always looks fabulous.
She does.
I love her. She wears the most beautiful scarves and stuff. She dresses to kill. I mean, really, she's gorgeous.
And I think
beautiful lipstick. I have to just say that.
She represents women. And, one thing I don't regret, but thinking back to my corporate career, and, I was in many corporate boardrooms and places and meetings. And, if anything about politics came up or anything about something, I had to be like, no, not Nancy Pelosi, just because to be a part of that table. And then I always went out and I crossed my fingers behind my back, because you had to say that to be, but it wasn't how I really felt, because it's almost like if you said you were a Democrat and you were for Pelosi, it was like a curse.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So,
but then
I crossed my fingers.
Okay. But then she's got that double 3 of hearts that you said before. And that gives her this great ability to work with people and more people and more people, and understand how to work with them. You know what I mean? It's it's not just having, 3. She's got the ability to really figure out how to work with people and what the right way is to handle things. And, she's never going to really change Kevin McCarthy. I mean, because he won't be that way. But,
neither will Mitch. I mean, you've got Mitch and Kevin, where they really have their feet dug into concrete, right? With those,
absolutely, and they're to the detriment, because there are things that need to get done.
But it's really in the cards where Mitch and Kevin could sit and overthink and think that they're doing right, and then you have Chuck and Nancy who are thinking creatively outside the box with a big heart on how to help the country.
Yep.
It's in these cards.
It is in these cards. Those people are exactly what you just said.
And it's interesting how they kind of can break bread together because of who they are. They know how to sit at the table together. They know how to show up together. But I would want to be a fly on the wall sometimes when they have a conversation. And it's interesting because it is in the cards on whoever's sitting down together. you have, the King of Clubs, you have 7 of Clubs, you have 10 of Hearts, 10 of Clubs, Ace of Diamonds. I mean, you have these people sitting down together that can break bread together, but, it's how to be persuasive. I don't know. But that's like the protein on the plate, because a lot happens within the 4 of them. And it's almost like right now, Chuck and Nancy are wearing the crowns, being the majority leader and then majority. And then will they keep the crowns or will they switch places? Nobody knows.
Time will tell, because it depends on how the Democrats approach all these, the next 6 months, whatever, the story that they're going to be telling the country about what they've done.
So, Jeri, before we go to the next course.
Let's have a little sorbet before we get to the next course on the dinner.
Yeah, because I think it'll be fun to talk about just some of the people we know in the Senate.
Some other members who are going to fit at this table that's going to get bigger and bigger. Like the big round. Just like the King Arthur's. Didn't he have 100 seats at that table?
You know what? King Arthur's round table, 100 people at a table.
Didn't he?
Well, Jeri, we're going to...
Well, we'll come back and we're going to find that out.
I know you're going
to find out if Camelot had 100 seats, because that would just be awesome. But I don't know if that was true.
King of Clubs, so I know you will know that when we come back.
We will be right back after a musical interlude. Donna, we're back.
So, Jeri, as your King of Clubs, I know you looked up King Arthur's table. Do share.
Of course I did, because it was Camelot. And I love Camelot. Camelot was my most favorite, it was a musical. There was a movie, musical, I think maybe even on Broadway. I mean, I have seen that so many times. And Dave and I used to watch the movie when we first met. We watched musicals, yes. We were that nerdy. We did. It was so nice to meet a man who could watch musicals with me, and I could cry, and I would say to him, "Don't look at me when I cry." I don't like to be looked at when I'm crying.
But Camelot represented a really nice, made people feel hopeful.
It was, but at the end when he was like, "Go boy, go run and spread the story of Camelot for eternity," I would just burst out in tears.
Well, right now we're certainly not living in Camelot.
No, we're not. But Camelot, so I remembered that because of the Senate's 100 seats. Right. And I looked up King Arthur's Round Table. And legend has it that King Leo de Grant, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, gave King Arthur the round table as a dowry for his daughter. And they were
how generous.
And he gave King Arthur 100 knights when he gave him the round table. So he gave him the knights and the round table, as I'm looking at this even more closely. So it was intended for 100, and I feel really happy that I remembered that, and that was real, because that, for some reason it just struck me.
And you know what? It's really cool, because when I go out to dinner or lunch or in meetings or family, if there's more than 4 people, I love to sit at a round table, because otherwise you're just, if you're at a long table, it's like you're not having a conversation. And, you know, I just, you know, I'm the one who calls ahead of time and says, could you please make sure we have a round table? And they probably go, oh, here she is again, the lady with the round table. But anyway.
Don't you know the places that they have round tables?
Well, we used to go to this place in Chinatown when our family was first blended, and there were like 10 of us. And we had this favorite restaurant, and we don't know the name, but it was because it had a big round table in the corner. And people would just stop by on Sunday nights because that's where we were. It was like the round table Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. Anyway, I think he lost the restaurant in a bad bet or in gambling. But
really? Oh, okay.
There was something. Anyway, so let's talk about the other people, the senators, that are kind of important to us to start to get to know from our unique point of view, because it's always in those cards.
But they're at the dinner table. What are we going to call them?
Well, I don't know, because maybe we'll call them the carbohydrates.
I think they are the carbohydrates. And I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because carbohydrates, so to make you a little fat and you don't get things done.
Oh, you get a little sleepy?
Yeah, just saying, you know, may not move things through the same way. You know, eating a lot of potatoes these days.
Well, no, I hear you. So let's see if this what this table tells us, because, you know, we all are invested in our country.
Yes, we are.
Lindsey Graham, 6 of diamonds, 8 of clubs, 5 of hearts, and a 10 of diamonds.
That's so interesting. You know, like 6 of diamonds. So he's got that financial responsibility card. You know, that card that says, like, you know, I got to pay my bills early and all that. But I guess he feels responsible for his state, South Carolina. You have to wonder. I think they're one of the poor states. I don't think they really do that well there in South Carolina. You know, but
that's for a deeper dive on another day.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's financial responsibility.
Right.
I mean, so it's also for the country, you know, because a senator has to deal with his state and the federal. It's like they're merging. They're the, you know, the person that goes both ways, so to speak. His second card is an 8 of clubs, so we know he's smart. I mean,
yes,
you can't call him. He's nobody's fool.
No.
Which also makes you realize that someone who is nobody's fool probably knows what he's talking about. So if he says something on TV one day and then changes his mind the next, or says something different to the point like, I didn't say that, you have to wonder, because let me tell you, he's smart. Everyone should know he's a smart guy. He didn't forget anything.
And there's a big difference with evolving and changing your mind than just saying something one day and saying something the next.
Absolutely.
So there's a very big difference.
And the reason, like what's a reason, you know? Because we're talking about a few other people here. So let's just say Lindsey Graham has always been changing his mind a lot lately.
Well, because it's the 5 of hearts, right?
Oh, well,
he wants to please people, probably.
There you go. The 5 of hearts is someone who is the emotional adventurer, really, but he's looking for, you know, love in this instance from his constituents, maybe, and maybe from the country, or maybe from his fellow senators. You know, maybe he needs that gratification even on his committees and stuff like that, because, you know, that's who he is. He's smart. He's fiscally responsible. but now he needs the love, and that might change day to day, because who knows? I can't keep track of who says what when. He might change his mind after someone else changes theirs first.
After breakfast. So he's got the 10 of diamonds as his
and that's that blessed card that is surrounded by all the people and the friends and the money. And so whether he has a lot of money or not, he probably has a lot of people who, the lobbyists, because
they love him, let me tell you, and they love to take you out for dinner,
right?
Or whatever they're allowed to do.
Right. So he's must love that, because that's who he is.
Yeah, he would shine at that.
Yep.
And next is Susan Collins from Maine. Now she's a jack of clubs, a king of clubs, and that two of clubs.
Yeah, she's interesting because she's really smart. You can't say anything about her because we know she's smart. So, I mean, that jack of clubs, mentally creative and brilliant, mental brilliance, and that king of clubs is that master of knowledge, and two of clubs is funny because that's the card of conversation, but someone who loves to debate and argue and talk a lot, And, Susan Collins never seemed, there's a lot of senators, there's 100 senators, so for us to know that Susan Collins from Maine, that she keeps herself in the news. Yes. You know what I mean? She is not one of those people, like whether you like her decisions or not, and I'm not going to tell you I do, but like it or not, she's not someone who skips out on being there.
No.
And if she believes in something, and if she believes in something, she votes for it, and she helped get the infrastructure bill through. Thank God, because we need the roads and the bridges and stuff and the broadband. There's a lot of things in it that's going to be really great, and we needed that. And thank God she's brilliant enough to be able to see it. And whatever went wrong with the recent bills, I don't know yet, but we'll see. But she's very smart, and she's her cards are so real for her.
Well, and the other thing about her cards is, what I see in her is, and I too have the same thing. She believes when somebody says something to her that they're telling the truth.
Oh, well, I do too. You know why? Because people who don't lie, people who
don't count, you can't even figure out.
You don't expect someone to lie when you're not a liar.
Exactly.
And liars will think everyone's lying. That's why the big lie.
Right, but I just was thinking it's true, but here to me, she's someone who's so mentally power charge driven that it's really hard to think that somebody acts in a different way. But that's just like a triple club power thing.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you know what's really interesting, Jeri? So next on my list is Joe Manchin. And he too is a triple clubs. He's a two of clubs and a double king of clubs. Now I was saying that about Susan Collins before I realized Joe Manchin.
Well, so Joe Manchin, so for everyone, we disclose, yes, we know he's a Democrat as opposed to Susan Collins, who is a Republican. But we also know Joe Manchin from West Virginia doesn't always vote with the Democrats. And sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. And he always is interviewed. So the two of clubs, his first card, is the card of conversation. And so he's always present. He's always there talking. I mean, he talks to the news people. We might not like what he says, but he always says it. And it's not, he doesn't back away from telling his truth. Okay. And then he's got the double king of clubs. So we don't really know whether he's overthinking things or if he's being very, very detailed oriented. You know what I mean? We don't really know, but I came to a realization a few minutes ago, maybe it was an epiphany, but, we want Joe Manchin to be Joe Manchin in West Virginia as a Democrat. We don't want him we don't want to kick him out of the club and make him feel like he should go be a Republican, because he lives in a very red state, and we actually need him as there are times he does vote with the Democrats. So we do need him there. What we really need as Democrats, what the Democrats need, is more Democrats from different states. Well, we don't need to get rid of a Democrat from a red state. We need to get more Democrats in red states.
That's, later on down the road, we'll have a whole thing on just swing states.
Right.
And what a swing state means and what.
But that's why I just want to publicly say, because I've always thought differently until just 5 minutes ago.
Right. There you go.
Because that was as I'm looking at the cards, they changed my mind as to who Joe Manchin was and what he might be doing, what his motives are, and how much we really need to have a Republican, a Democrat in a Republican state.
And this is how we can evolve our thought, by looking at details and making educated, decisions.
Exactly.
Or thinking it through instead of just, not thinking it through.
Exactly.
And then we have Lisa Murkowski from Alaska.
Yes. She's interesting.
She's really interesting. A 10 of clubs, a king of spades, 8 of diamonds.
10 of clubs.
She's so interesting.
King of spades and double 8 of diamonds.
Double 8 of diamonds.
So that 10 of clubs she's very smart. She's just look at everyone on this page so far has clubs.
True.
Right? So 10 of clubs, mentally brilliant, whatever. And King of Spades gives her that MasterCard.
Don't tell Visa or
It's the only MasterCard around here. And then a double 8 of diamonds, the shining card, the one who loves to shine. She's interesting because if you read about her, she won a write-in election to be a senator. Like, she was the second person, like, in history to I think, Strom Thurmond or something.
Yes.
I mean, like, when you read about that, that's unbelievable that she won it by people writing her name in, and her name is Lisa Murkowski.
Who could spell that?
I mean,
who could say that 3 times fast?
They hadn't know how to spell it, and because people were looking at the ballots, and they would, they could knock them out if it wasn't spelled right.
Right, that's true.
And if it wasn't spelled right, it could go from Republican to Democrat, but which is so ironic because she's a Republican.
Right.
I mean, it's just, and the Republicans were freaking out because they wanted her to win.
So they had to spell right.
And they were all freaked out because of, they're like, if they knock out some more because of the spelling, we might lose the seat. I mean, so, there's so much irony here, but the fact that that's what she was is quite amazing. Wow. She's something. And you know what? Another smart woman, and I really believe that she does things for the right reason, for her reason, and I have to respect some of these people, whether I like them or not, and agree with them every time. Like, they are smart enough to follow their conscience and to know how to do the right thing and when it's important. So we want to keep some of these people where they are. I have nothing bad to say about any of these people.
Well, no, and nor should we. Right. But this isn't about who we do.
We just want to talk about who they are, right?
Who they are, but
they are their cards. They are.
They
Come
are.
on, how could anyone win a write-in if they're not the King of Spades? I mean,
no, I agree.
Amazing.
I agree. And then the last seat at the table we're going to talk about for this segment is Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he's so interesting, Donna.
And so let me just say, he's a Jack of Diamonds, a Queen of Hearts, a 10 of clubs, and a 2 of spades. So now we know that he's the senator of Utah, but before that, he was the governor of Massachusetts.
Isn't that crazy?
And here's the thing, because I was working with people in Massachusetts, and they always had health care.
Mm-hmm. He
They
put
were
it
like,
in.
I
It
don't
was
know
his
what
plan.
the country's all upset about, because Massachusetts had health care. I was like, really?
Yep, it was his plan that they were trying to put in place, and all of a sudden it was not acceptable.
And it's something where, from the people that I've worked with, they were really happy with whatever it was they had, and they didn't understand the big deal until they realized the rest of the country didn't have what they had.
It's unbelievable.
And you look at that, but that's his Queen of Hearts, caring about people.
Yep.
And it's also funny because Jeri, just Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Hearts, 10 of clubs, and a 2 of spades. And now he's the senator in Utah.
Yeah, I mean, he's at Jack of Diamonds. We know that they're persuasive and they can really move mountains if they need to. They're great at marketing. They're great at getting their point across. Queen of Hearts, like you said, loving people, helping people, working, caring about the country. And then also being that 10 of clubs, really bright, smart person, and that 2 of spades friendship card. And he's really interesting because, I believe he's his own man. He is his own man. And that's the thing with Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, even Joe Manchin. These are all people who are their own person. They do what they think is right. They follow themselves. They don't follow someone else.
No,
I honestly can't say that about Lindsey Graham, but I can say that about the other 4 people, that they really are. They follow their own inner thing, and whatever it is, and you can criticize or you can be upset with them for whatever reason, but you know what? That's who they are. They're all smart. They're educated. They're smart. They have fabulous royal cards. I mean, and they all have, just look at the powerful cards like all of them have. Truthfully, the only one that doesn't have royal cards is Lindsey Graham.
That is true.
The one who's looking to make everyone happy.
You know what? He really must have a hard time at that table.
He really must, because he's looking for love from other people, whereas these other people all have this all that power already in them, and he's looking for the power. He wants to get that power, right?
I just think it's really interesting when we break it down this way.
Yep. I agree. But you know what? I think we should call it quits on dinner for night. But tonight, let's finish this dinner table with the carbohydrates and move on to another part of the meal next time.
Okay. Because I was thinking that we should do a global view.
Yeah, but next time, because I have a little dog that's going out of control right now.
Okay.
And I can't stop him from biting me, so I don't feel like being part of dinner.
We shall return.
We shall return, and we'll see everyone next time. Peace out. Jeri Isaacs.
Donna Bernard, thank you for joining us.